All right, so today we have Brendon with us, and he's been a patient for quite a few months, but really we got the majority of the improvements just within the first month. Brendon, how long were you dealing with symptoms? What was your issue that brought you into the office?
So I suffered a couple concussions, one in November of 22 and then February of 23. Dealt with symptoms for more part of, I would say, 6 months. I was using other sorts of medicine, wasn't really working, and then my mom actually found this place, and within the first month I was already starting to feel better, due to his synopsis and everything like that. He kind of did all the work on me, and it definitely worked a lot better than traditional medicine.
What was the main complaint? I believe it was headaches?
Yeah, so main complaint was headaches, migraines, anytime I did physical activity of any sort, whether it was working out, hockey, it was just, those things would flare up quite a lot.
And what about even like mental exertion, school?
Yeah, school was a problem, focusing for more than 30 minutes at a time. Just kind of everything was just not right.
Yeah,
I guess so.
Where were your headaches at, and what do they feel like?
Headaches were they were just sharp. In front of my head, kind of all around my head, honestly, on the sides. Throbbing.
Yeah.
But yeah, throbbing and sharp pains for sure. Did not feel good.
Yeah. And the reason I asked that to him is because the description of how his headaches were, it wasn't like the classic migraine or anything else along those lines. And one of the things, the first thing that we did with him in the office is we did a tilt table test. And once again, getting back to the headache, it sounded like a lot of pressure. And so we wanted to make sure his autonomics were working well. And so there's 3 things that are messed up with a concussion. It's either autonomics, eyes, or balance, or a combination of those. And so the very first test that we did with him in the initial exam was a tilt table test. We laid him down for about 5 minutes, and his heart rate was 60s, 70s,
Yep,
normal athletic heart rate. And then blood pressure was with normal limits. And then I tilted him up and just made him stand there for 10 minutes. The whole time he was standing there, his heart rate was over 90, right? So there's no reason an athletic person just standing still on a table should be over 90 unless they have some sort of autonomic dysfunction. And so I knew that was one of the big markers for you, and that's why we kept that as like the clinical marker of how you were feeling, right? And I think within the first 1 or 2 visits, one of the main therapies we did was vestibular, making him spin in a chair, and that's what was stimulating the better control over the autonomics. And just within a couple of visits, we had your heart rate down, right?
I mean, yeah, it was very quick. I mean, right after a week, 2 weeks of just little therapies like that, I think everything, started to feel a lot better right away.
Yeah. And so we even did eye exams, and his eye score went from 30% into the 80 percentile and has been there ever since. And his eyes are functioning much better. And now you're probably, about 6 months out of care in a sense?
Yeah, I mean, I think the first part, was a lot of, heavy therapy stuff with the eyes and the balance, the pressure and all that stuff. So my first score on the right eye was 30?
Yep.
So it went from 30, that was right after my injury. We started doing therapy a couple weeks after. It went from 30 to a 60. And then after that, I think we took it maybe a couple weeks or a month after. And it went to 80, and it's been at 80 ever since.
Yeah.
And that process probably took, I would say, 6-7 months, but right after the second month, it was back to normal.
Yep. And the reason I say, he's been kind of out of care, we haven't actively been pushing him and doing things like that, is because he's maintaining what he did in here. So it's not like something where he's got to always do this. And there are scenarios where you're going to have to. Like with some people, they always got to do some therapies, but you've healed the things that were wrong in your brain, and they're maintaining it now. And now we have him in the office. He's doing like really complex hand-eye coordination for some hockey skills, and he's just going to keep excelling as far as that goes.
Yeah, I mean, I think the coolest thing about it is, like he said, we've been able to maintain, my score, I guess, on the right eye. And as that score goes up, I feel a lot better. At the beginning, like I said, it was a lot of hands-on stuff with him and Lauren, and they were great with it. But as my score went up, they've kind of been able to let me go on my own in terms of coming in here, doing therapy on my own. But, they also shadow that in a sense where they're showing me what I should be doing. I do that stuff, and it continuously helps me without them having to be exactly hands-on, I guess.
Yeah, great.
So,
all right.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate it. Best of luck in the future, all right?
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for everything you guys done. It was awesome.
Yep, you got it.